Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So the teenager Ahed Tamim in Israel, I guess you can call it areas of Palestine, confronted a soldier. She's 16 years old and she has been indicted on 4 counts of assault. Is that right? 4 counts? On 5 counts of assault, apparently. Israel puts kids in their prisons and are okay with torturing those kids. So I don't necessarily know what her fate is going to show. I want to show a little bit about this because this story is a hallmark. You guys are creating your own monsters. You're creating your own monsters. This is a 16-year-old child who confronted one of the soldiers. Mind you, she did the same thing when she was like 12 years old. But understand the severity of the situation to which you have a child confronting a soldier in this regard, in this military occupation. So this is Newsweek. Ahed Tamim, 16-year-old who attacked Israeli soldiers, indicted on 5 counts of assault. Now, you can say she attacked those soldiers. You can also say she was trying to rebuff an occupation in which homes were being demolished, people were being put in prison, people were being tortured, and people were being abused, and they lost complete agency to decide their own lives. You can say it that way, too. She was rebuffing those things. But whatever. The 16-year-old Palestinian girl who was filmed assaulting Israeli soldiers outside her home in early December has now been indicted on 5 counts of assaulting security forces. Occupying forces. The mother who filmed the event was charged with assault and indictment after posting a video of her teen on social media in which she urges others to protest against Israel with stabbing attacks or suicide bombings. The event was filmed by Ahmed's mother, Nariman Tamimi, the Jewish press reported. After the initial attack on the soldiers, Tamimi continued to film Ahed deliver a message of resistance in which he urges others to join in protests against Israel. Our strength is in our rocks, and I hope that the entire world will unite to liberate Palestine because Trump announced a decision and they need to bear responsibility for every response that will come from us, Ahed is quoted in saying in her indictment reports. Whether it's a stabbing attack or suicide bombing or throwing rocks, everyone needs to do something to unite in order for our message to reach those who want to liberate Palestine. Can you honestly say this kid is wrong? Can you honestly say this kid is wrong? You've had a force that essentially occupied a territory. The world stood by while this was taking place, even though it flouted international law. They completely demolished homes and stole more land as the world watched and wrung their hands. This woman is not wrong, or this child is not wrong in what she's saying. Ultimately, they're trying to rebuff an attacker. A system has been put in place, and that system that's been put in place massively advantaged one side that has nuclear weapons, billions of dollars from the United States government, versus this other side who have rocks, and every so often rockets. One side is nuclear weapons, the other side is rocks and rockets. And one side is stealing territory that doesn't belong to it. One side is militarily occupying another territory, again, that doesn't belong to it. So, if you're demolishing homes and stealing land, purely against international law, if you're invading and occupying somebody else's territory, again, against international law, if you're human rights abuses, left and right. I mean, you're talking about putting kids in fucking prison and torturing those kids once those kids are in prison. How is she wrong on this? How is she wrong on this? It's okay for Israel to bomb homes and drop a bomb on a home to alert them that a bigger bomb is coming. It's okay for them to kill 2,000 people, 80% of those people being civilians. That stuff is perfectly okay. But somebody throwing a rock at a soldier, that's beyond the line. And that person, that child, is now going to be put in prison and potentially subjected to Israeli torture. Let's take a look at the context. This is The Guardian. Palestinian 16-year-old Ahed Tamim is the latest child victim of Israelis' occupation. And again, Israelis' occupation. This is Israel invading somebody else's territory and is shocked and stunned that somebody else, meaning those people, are going to respond to the invasion of their territory. You've stolen their agency. You've stolen their agency. And you have military forces in their land, and you're shocked as shit that people are going to respond to you in ways that you don't particularly like. A little over 4 years ago, I drove to the West Bank village of Nabi Saleh to spend a day with a 12-year-old girl. Her name was Ahed Tamim, and I was interviewing her for the magazine article Children of the Occupation, Growing Up in Palestine. We talked about her life in the village, the constant presence of soldiers, the demolition order for her home, mermaids, footballs, and hopscotch. She was elfin with an uneasy mix of worldliness and naivety. Of the many children I met in the West Bank, Gaza over the next 4 years of uncovering the Israel-Palestinian conflict for The Guardian, I found Ahed to be the most disturbing. By then, she was well known in pro-Palestinian circles. In 2012, a video showing her angrily confronting an Israeli soldier had gone viral. Ahed was feted. Now, another video of her slapping and kicking an Israeli soldier was led to her being charged with assaulting security forces, incitement, and throwing stones. The teenager is in custody, awaiting trial. The video and the charges are polarized opinion. To many pro-Palestinian activists, Ahed is a symbol of resistance, a child hero, a freedom fighter. Comparisons have been drawn to Malala I can't pronounce that last name, and Joan of Arc. She has been lionized on social media and publicly praised by Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas. On the Israeli side, some have said that she is a puppet of political parents. She has been schooled in violence and that she deserves stiff punishment. Yes, she has been schooled in violence by you. By you. Her relatives are already in prison. They've just given an indictment to her mom. So what is this child supposed to expect when her parents have already been put in prison and subjected to unfair punishment by the Israeli government? What does she expect? What did you expect when you've demolished her home? Do you believe she's going to have these rosy feelings of your government and the way that your government responds to the people in that particular area? You're stealing their property. You're abusing their citizens. You're demolishing their homes. You're putting them in prison and you're torturing those individuals. How do you believe that those people are going to respond to you in the way that based on the way that you responded to them? This girl is a hero. This girl is a hero. Flat, fact, absolute. This woman is a hero. You had a 16-year-old who's being oppressed, literally in an oppressive government, and she understands that 16-year-olds can be put in prison, and she understands that 16-year-olds can be tortured in Israel. And yet and still, she finds that the cause of rebuffing this overt aggression by a hostile military force is better than living a life of this kind of complicit agreement to what's taking place, this open-air ghetto. She's a hero. My point of the story is only to notify or to kind of highlight the fact that this 16-year-old is in hostile territory, and she is still trying to rebuff her oppressors in that territory, this colonialized nation. I don't necessarily know what's going to become of her. I would imagine she's going to be put in prison like many other Palestinians have been put in prison. But at the very least, in this one particular moment, I will acknowledge that what she did was just and morally right. At least from the standpoint of, you are attacking us, and in us rebuffing your attack, yes, we're morally justified in trying to rebuff your attack. If you slap me, are you telling me that I don't have the right to slap you back, or at the very least defend myself? It's a protest. It was a protest. Being occupied by a foreign power and protesting in an area where you're being occupied by a foreign power, it is not for the faint of heart. And her wanting her message to get out, by the way, personally, I think violence in this situation is problematic. Meaning, I don't necessarily think from a military standpoint, even from a strategic standpoint, that violence gets you to where you need to go. So that's the first point. Second point, doesn't necessarily mean that you're not necessarily morally justified in doing it. You're just won't necessarily be productive in the way that change, I think, needs to occur. But that being said, I don't live there. And I would feel the exact same way if I was living there and I was under that oppressive government in the way that they behave towards Palestinians. So, in no way, in the same way that Malcolm X was pissed off, he had a right to be pissed off. I look at this woman as the same way, this girl in the same way. She has a right to be pissed off. It is as natural can be to be pissed off. You're fucking killing them. You're treating them like animals. You have this open-air ghetto, and you expect people to be loving light while you're living in this open-air ghetto. So, yes. One of the things that she mentioned was she hopes her message gets out, and she hopes people will be aware of the Palestinian plight. Facebook has been taking down Palestinian posts at the direction of the United States and Israeli government. That is fucking amazing. That is fucking amazing. It's not enough to have nuclear weapons. It's not enough to get billions of dollars from the United States. Nope, that's not enough. It's not enough that you have an open-air ghetto, that you're stealing property, that you're abusing citizens, that you're putting those people in prisons, that you're torturing those people while they're in those prisons, while you're crushing dissent in any particular way, while you're creating this kind of fervor for people to be pissed at you and then shock the shit that people are pissed at you. No, that's not enough. That's not enough. We also need you to shut you up. We also need to shut you up. We don't want you talking this stuff and telling people about what's taking place in Palestinian territories. We don't want you communicating in this way. So yes, we want you to also shut up. Accept your open-air ghetto in silence. And this will be co-signed by the United States, who I keep being told loves and cares about these ideas of human rights. Whatever. I read the Rex Tillerson memo earlier on today that kind of made this point that the humanitarian thing is only used as a club for your enemies. Humanitarian reasons are not our primary reasons or primary reason for the United States action or the reason that the United States does things. It has little to nothing to do with the process. It's only a club. We bring up humanitarian issues only when we want to hit somebody over the head with those humanitarian issues. So Iran, Russia, and China will be hit over the head with those humanitarian issues. Saudi Arabia, Qatar, not so much. They're our buddies, they're our allies. The guy who was in those murdering drug dealers in the Philippines, that guy, he's perfectly okay too. We like these strong men in these particular governments, even though these guys are murderers, nearly dictators of sorts. We like these guys. They're strong men, not dictators, but they're strong men. The other guys, not so much. My point here is the United States stand by an ally, gives that ally billions of dollars, and that ally has an open-air ghetto. Even when Israel was murdering, to the tune of 2,000 people, 80% of those people being innocent, the United States was still giving them weapons and still giving them arms and support. One side had these shitty rockets, and the other side has nuclear weapons. Put the shit in context. I will leave it at that. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Alright guys, if you enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks guys.